Hi everyone, welcome to my channel, Unsettling Stories. Just like every day, I'm here to share a new terrifying story with you, sent by one of our subscribers. Before start, please subscribe my channel. Let's listen to the haunted school horror story, in their own words. A few years ago I was starting at a new school working with kids with behavioral special needs. This was a very old school in a small town. The school itself is haunted and across the street is the haunted library. According to town legend, the school had a janitor hang himself in the third-floor closet. 3 young girls jumped to their death from the 3rd floor, and a nun, it was formerly a Catholic school, murdered somewhere on campus. The library was where town hangings used to take place. Besides the library being the old hanging gallows, none of the other legends have proof. Though no proof, I have first-hand witnessed things that corroborate these legends. I grew up in this town hearing these tales for as long as I can remember. I had my first direct line to the school through my best friend's mom who worked there. She would tell us how they would make sure to shut off all of the lights at the end of the day before leaving, but every morning they came in the 3rd-floor janitor's closet light was on. This is supposedly where the janitor had hanged himself. She told me she would walk the grounds in the evening for exercise before going home, usually without issues. One day though, she had just clocked out and was making a small loop around the school when she saw a figure in the tree line ahead of her. She describes this as a woman in what looked like a habit. She said she couldn't see her face but could make out the markings one would see on a nun. She quickly walked to her car and never saw the woman again. Now on to my personal experience. I had just finished a full day of working with some very challenging teens and was wrapping up my paperwork. Being new to the behavioral school world, I tended to take longer than most others with paperwork and was often the last to leave. Many a night it would be myself and my boss closing up the school. This particular evening, myself, another teacher 2 doors down in the last classroom of the hall, and my boss were working late. We were all on the 3rd floor as this is where behavioral teen classes were. Over the course of the day I had accumulated some questions I needed to ask my boss and was packing up planning to head to her office. Just as I am trying to close up my bag, I see a woman walk by my classroom heading towards the end of the hallway. I figured it was my boss going to see my coworker who was that way. I thought this was perfect. I'd get to talk to her and my coworker who happened to be my work bestie. I grabbed my stuff, shut off my lights, and locked up my classroom. I was surprised to hear silence when I reached the hallway. The walls were thin and my coworker's door was open, so I figured I'd hear them chatting. I get to my coworker's class and she meets my gaze with a look of terror. I ask her what's wrong. She asks me if I saw her. Saw who? I asked. At this point I had scanned the room and didn't see any strange person or my boss for that matter. My coworker gets up and ushers me into the hallway facing the end where the window was. She points at the window and asks once again, "Did you see her?" Finally, after a moment, I put together what she was asking. "You mean Mary, boss?" "Yes, I saw her walk this way towards you, but I never saw her leave." "Mary never came to my room. That wasn't her," my coworker says. My face must have looked perplexed as she decided to continue her explanation without my reply. "It was a young girl, a teen. She walked past my room and as I ran out to see if it was a lost student, she went through the window." I quickly ran over to the window and tried to crank it open. This made no sense as being a behavioral school, all of our windows were nailed closed. There is no way someone could have gone out of that window. At this point I'm flabbergasted and my coworker is frantic. I go with her to get her things from her classroom and we leave, not bothering to say goodbye to our boss before we left. This was my scariest experience, but there were other small things like locked doors being found unlocked in the morning or papers scattered all over the classroom. The school has since been shut down and is being demolished in the near future. I can't say I'm sad to see it go. Story number 2. The high school I attended was said to be haunted by a girl who had been pushed off of the bell tower and broke her neck, causing her to pass away instantly as she hit the ground. Before it was turned into a modern-day high school, I believe it was an all-girls boarding school. Strangely enough, I cannot find a lot of information on the building, which would have been around the time when this unfortunate event happened. There were a few small stories circulating about the school being haunted. But alas, they could have been rumors and completely made up. However, I had an experience of my own that made me believe them to be true. I'll start with one of the stories I heard from others. Either a teacher or a student, I forget which, needed a guide dog or a therapy dog which they would bring into the school with them. However, the dog would refuse to go anywhere near the stairwell which led to the bell tower. It would whine and try to back up and wouldn't go towards the bottom end of the second floor ICT corridor, which is where the doors lead out to the stairwell. It's also where I had my own experience. I'd also like to add that there is no longer a bell in the bell tower. It wasn't there when I first started at the school, and it still isn't there to this day. I believe it was removed and the door leading up to it was sealed shut, meaning even if we ascended the stairs to it, we wouldn't be able to get much further than that said flight of stairs. Now onto my own experience. It was lunchtime and I'd taken a shortcut through the maths corridors and turning right onto the ICT corridor on the second floor towards the door that leads to the stairwell. One set of stairs led down to a small foyer and the canteen on the right, and the other set of stairs led up towards the sealed-off bell tower. As I was walking along the ICT corridor, I realized that it was awfully quiet. No one was around, no teachers or students whatsoever. It was so quiet my ears rung. A set of footsteps joined me and were walking behind me about halfway along the corridor. I thought it must have been another student, so I didn't bother turning around to look who it was. I just wanted to get to lunch. I got to the doors, which are big heavy wooden doors that don't stay open on their own. They need to be pushed with quite some force and latched onto a heavy-duty magnet that holds them open until you press a button to release them. The amount of times I was smacked in the face by these things is astounding. So I get to the doors and I push one of them open, not bothering to latch it to the magnet on the wall, thinking that the person walking behind me will just catch it as I let go and walk through it down to the canteen for lunch too. As I began walking down the set of stairs to the canteen, I suddenly stopped mid-step. Something didn't feel right, and I realized the doors hadn't made the noise they do when they slam shut and the footsteps had stopped at the door. I waited for someone to pass me on the stairs, but nobody did, so I turn around slowly, and the door I walked through stood open on its own, without being latched onto the magnet. It was ajar, far enough open that I could see down the corridor, but not quite far enough for it to catch the magnet and stay open. And the student I thought was walking behind me is nowhere to be seen, even though I could have sworn up and down they were right behind me, as their footsteps weren't even that far away. Before I could even gasp, the door shuts. Slowly. As if someone was holding it open and then shut it slowly and gently so it wouldn't make a noise. I literally couldn't get out of there quick enough, and I turned and ran down the rest of the steps. I never took that shortcut alone again and always made sure I went the long way around if no one was with me. What was even more weird to me was the fact that it felt as if someone were watching me and this whole event unfold. Creepy. Story number 3. In the heart of the small town of Oakwood stood an old school building, its walls weathered by time and its windows dimmed with decades of dust. Oakwood Elementary, once a vibrant hub of learning, had been abandoned for years after a tragic incident that left its halls shrouded in eerie whispers. Legend had it that on a stormy night many years ago, a young teacher named Miss Emily vanished without a trace. Some said she had been spirited away by the restless spirits said to haunt the school grounds. Others whispered darker tales of foul play and hidden secrets. Years passed, and Oakwood Elementary became a place feared by locals, its once cheerful playground overgrown with weeds, its classrooms silent and cold. But one autumn day, a group of daring teenagers decided to explore the abandoned school, drawn by stories of ghostly apparitions and strange occurrences. As they stepped cautiously through the creaking doors, the air inside seemed to chill with a presence they could not explain. Shadows danced in the dim light filtering through cracked windows, and the echo of their footsteps reverberated eerily down empty corridors. They ventured deeper, passing by rusted lockers and broken desks frozen in time. Whispers seemed to follow them, faint and elusive, like the fragments of a forgotten conversation. Each room they entered held its own secrets. A forgotten library filled with dusty books, a music room where notes still hung in the air, as if waiting for someone to play. But it was in the old teacher's lounge that they found the first clue. Amidst discarded furniture and faded photographs, they uncovered an old journal belonging to Miss Emily. Its pages told of her growing unease in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, of strange noises in the night and fleeting glimpses of figures in the shadows. As they read on, a sudden chill descended upon the room, and the door slammed shut with a force that shook the walls. Panic gripped the group as they struggled to open it, but it remained stubbornly closed. Just as fear threatened to overwhelm them, the door swung open on its own, revealing a figure standing in the doorway. It was Miss Emily, her form translucent and ethereal, her eyes filled with a mix of sorrow and longing. She beckoned to them, her voice a faint whisper in the wind, urging them to uncover the truth that had eluded her for so long. With trembling hands, they followed her silent guidance, piecing together the fragments of her story. They learned of betrayal and heartache, of a love lost and a life cut short. And as they did, the school around them seemed to come alive with memories, its walls echoing with laughter and tears long forgotten. As dawn broke on the horizon, Miss Emily's spirit finally found peace, her story told and her secrets revealed. The teenagers left Oakwood Elementary that day, their hearts heavy with the weight of history, but also with a sense of closure and understanding. And though the school remained abandoned, its halls silent once more, the memory of that fateful night lingered in the minds of those who dared to remember, a testament to the enduring power of the past and the ghosts that haunt us still. Friends, if you enjoyed this story, please subscribe to my channel. Like, comment, and share it with your friends. Help us on this journey and support us so I can bring more great stories for you. Until the next video, take care.